Yep. So what's your reaction to the poll?
Well, I think the Survey USA polling has been very consistent in showing Rand Paul with a sizable lead over Trey Grayson. The Trey Grayson polling and pollsters say that the methodology is not correct and that their polling shows it much closer, in fact, a dead heat. So I think one of the real political tactical items we'll be looking at on Tuesday night is which polling is right. Does Rand Paul have a huge lead, or is Trey Grayson's methodology better? We'll find out in less than a week. Right now, all of the public polling seems to indicate Rand Paul has the momentum. But it would be a massive upset, not only politically, but just in terms of political tactics, if Trey Grayson has the only pollster who actually called this race correct.
And the fact that it's been consistent polls in a row here, that Paul has a double-digit lead.
It has been very consistent for Rand Paul. I think that there are some people who believe they are registered Republicans that are not, and will go to the polls on Tuesday, May 18th, and find they're not voting in this particular primary. So I think Paul is likely to slightly underperform the polling, and I think Grayson, because he's appeared on the ballot twice statewide, may overperform the polling a bit. But the question, I think, really is, does Rand Paul have the kind of a lead right now that would make that sort of movement irrelevant?
Trey Grayson was saying earlier today that the advertising that the Paul campaign is doing right now is still attacking Trey Grayson. He said that should tell you something that Rand Paul really believes he's behind, or is in a competitive race, because otherwise, if he had this kind of a big lead, why would he be attacking Grayson? Why wouldn't he just be talking about a positive message in the last week?
Well, I think both campaigns are attacking, and certainly there's a 527 in this state attacking Rand Paul. So I think that both campaigns believe they still have work to do. I think even if Rand Paul believes he has a lead of some kind, that he hasn't completely sealed the deal, that he hasn't completely shut off Grayson from any chance of winning. And so I think that's why you're seeing both campaigns attack. I think that's why you're seeing both campaigns mixing in some positive, because they believe that they still have a little bit of work to do to get over the magic number of 50%, although there are a few other candidates in the race, so you can win without 50. But I think that Paul believes he has a lead, but that he hasn't completely sealed the deal, that he still needs to keep his foot on Grayson for the duration. I do believe that Grayson believes there's a lot of undecided voters, and that he has credibility with people, and that a positive message will bring some of those to the table. I do also think that at the end of the day, Grayson believes that a lot of people may like Paul's message, but are still just a bit unsure about him because they don't know him, they haven't voted for him, they may not know a lot about him even after this long campaign, and so a positive message may persuade some of those people to turn out for Grayson. But honestly, and obviously, if you're Rand Paul, you have to feel good about where the public polling is. Also because there's a dynamic in politics that people like to vote for winners. And so if there's a lot of folks who haven't paid any attention and they see these last surveys come out showing Rand Paul with a lead, there will be some people persuaded by that and they want to jump on a winning ticket. So you have to feel good if you're Paul. I think if you're Grayson, you have one of the best pollsters in the country working on your campaign. You have to trust him, and you have to trust the experience of Mitch McConnell, who's obviously advising this campaign, and you have to trust that somebody who's been in office for as long as Grayson does have an organization statewide capable of turning out the vote.
And that's what it comes down to. I mean, it's who actually shows up.
No doubt. And some counties are going to have very high turnout, and some counties are going to have very low turnout. In the Republican southeastern counties, where you have a lot of local primaries going on for county judge executive and sheriff and jailer, you're going to see high turnout because you don't have very competitive fall elections. And so the Republican primary in the southeast is critical, and that's where Congressman Hal Rogers has endorsed Trey Grayson. The turnout here in Louisville is important. About a third of registered Republicans live in Jefferson County. And so will the mayor's race bring out more Republicans in Jefferson County, and who's doing better here? I think the turnout in northern Kentucky is important, where Trey Grayson is from. And typically,
Rand Paul leads there right now.
Well, according to the subsample in your poll, he does, but I think it's a small subsample. I think if Trey Grayson has got to believe at the end of the day northern Kentucky will break his way. However, northern Kentucky tends to turn out lower in Kentucky primaries and in Kentucky elections than the rest of the state. So his turnout operation really needs to be strong in his own backyard so that he can maximize some votes from people who really know him there, from his neighbors. So yes, you have a turnout game going on, and it's really regional in nature. What's happening in the southeast is different than what's happening in the west. that's different than what's happening in Louisville and Northern Kentucky. And so I think each campaign is looking at it probably geographically. What do I need to do in these southeastern counties? What do I have to do in Louisville? What do I have to do in Northern Kentucky? And in all those cases, it's a little bit different depending on where you are.